coming to Mr. Kroger in 3, 2, 1.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Gary and Kenny Show. I'm Gary Kroger in Waterloo, Iowa, and I am joined by...
Ken Seisler in Calabasas, California.
How many times have we done this show and you don't get that part right? I mean,
because I'm trying to think of something else to say besides my name just to make it a little bit different.
Why don't you think about that like 10 minutes before we start?
You know, because you're the one that just says, let's wing it, Kenny. So I'm winging it. This is what happens when one wings.
Everything's better when we wing it. Okay, is this our first show back this year? Is this our first show of the
I think it was 2023.
Yeah.
It's got a dull year, 2023. There's no ring to it.
No, 2023 means nothing except that it has to be an improvement over 2022.
No year has ever been an improvement. Gary, let me just ask you this. Has any year been an improvement over the previous year?
It has to be an improvement. Even a recession is going to be an improvement over the shit of 22.
Every year when we go into a new year, it's always, God damn it, I'm so glad we're done with 1976. I'm so glad we're done with 2020. Nobody ever at a New Year's Eve party said, no, I don't want to go into the new year. I want to stay in the old year. No, every year seems to get worse and worse and worse. Sounds a little pessimistic on my part, don't you think?
Well, you know, Kenny, I'm going to trump everything you just said. You know how?
How?
My mother died in 2022. Come on, that's a shitty year.
Well, that is a bad year, but maybe you die in 2023. That could be a really bad year. That could be worse. I'm just trying to point out. I'm just trying to point out how bad things can really be, Gary.
Good night, everybody. Well, okay, it can get bad, but you know what, Kenny? One of the things that we enjoy when we get together is talking about the stuff that's going on, and even though this could be on in a week or two, we're never really sure.
Yes,
you know, one of us could die before this airs. There's a lot of stuff in the news, Kenny.
Too much. Too much. Too much. I don't know.
There's a lot of stuff in the. Well, what do you want to start with? We can talk about, you know, heart attacks playing sports. We can talk about Joe Biden's documents. I mean, where do you want to go?
Man, that's why I'm talking about things just don't seem to be looking good for 2023.
Well, I don't see what's going to be an improvement because we know that we're in tenuous times with, you know, a fragile economy that, you know, with the prices going up and people spending less, we are on the brink of a recession.
Are you having problems getting eggs in Iowa?
I haven't even thought about it. Maybe.
Well, because
I think the price of eggs have gone up. The price of milk has gone up considerably.
Yes, but I mean, I went out for eggs and we can't get eggs. And you know, apparently it's because millions and millions and millions of chickens are dying.
What are they dying from?
People aren't talking about it. COVID. They have bird flu. What other kind of flu would a bird have? But bird flu.
So that's for real? The chickens are dying of bird flu?
Yeah, this is why there's a shortage of eggs. You can't get eggs in California. I mean, now I think they're starting to get them in, but I went the other day to get eggs and it was incredible. And I asked what's going on. And they said bird flu.
Birds were dying. Well, I would suggest you stock up on eggs, milk, and toilet paper.
See,
it seems like
2023 is not going off too good so far. So far, no good. You guys froze again every time you say something. How much are you getting?
Every 3 words.
Every 3 words. That's probably making more sense. My every third word is probably making more sense than if you took my entire sentence together.
Well, my theory, Kenny, is this is happening on your Calabasas.
It might, gentlemen. It's a possibility. You do know, if you've been following the news, that California has been experiencing a weather phenomenon.
Is that what's going on? Well, we're going to get to our local weatherman very soon. Here.
No, this is true, but
is that the question
what's going
on, or do you have chickens
given all the technical difficulties, given all our technical difficulties, will we be able to air this, or should we try to start again? I don't know.
You know what I suggest?
Yes,
both. I suggest that we actually admit to our audience we're having technical difficulties, and I suggest that you come back on. Go away and come back, because the problem's with you.
So you want me to leave the meeting?
Doesn't make sense to you?
Yes, you want me to leave the meeting?
Yeah.
And come back on. Okay, I'll do that.
Check your connections and stuff. What is your little Wi-Fi thing?
You're not going to question my connections. Don't start questioning my connections. I am connected, okay? I got routers, I got
your
Wi-Fi.
Your connections are why we have a show.
Okay. I'm
All
gonna
right.
leave anyhow.
We're good right
I'm
now.
gonna leave.
So
I'm
let's
gonna have to
stay.
start
No,
again. Gary.
don't leave.
Don't leave.
All right.
I'm not
Okay.
leaving.
All right.
This
Goodbye.
is gonna be
Gary.
some fancy ass
It's
editing.
going fine right now.
All right.
It's going fine right now. Let's just continue with the show.
All right.
And then if it gets all shitty again, we'll revisit getting rid of you and coming back.
All right.
I think this is actually made for interesting television right here.
Of course not. When you see something
to me
going on
anyway.
with the card comes up and says, we're having technical difficulties, you don't stay around and go, oh, I'm going to wait to see how this works out. You immediately
I
change
do
the
if I
channel.
like the technical difficulty music. Hey, listen, let's bring Mark on. Let's interview Mark.
All right.
And then we will come back and revisit our technical difficulties.
Okay.
Deal?
Hey,
are you pouting?
A little bit.
Let's just do it.
A little bit. All right.
All right. Ladies and gentlemen, recently, a few weeks ago, someone that I knew very
Can you
well, still know.
Can you be more inclusive
well.
in that, ladies and gentlemen? Because there's, you have nine
ladies, gentlemen, or however you identify.
That's better.
I guess that is fair.
Mm-hmm.
All of you guests, we would like to welcome our guest. A few weeks ago, I get online in the morning as I usually do, and I go onto Twitter and I see my friend Mark Woodley, who is the sports anchor and reporter here for KWWL, and he made a cute little video of an assignment that he had doing the weather. And I thought, oh, this is really cute. And then a moment later, somebody writes, did you see that Judd Apatow gave this a thumbs up and David Cross reposted it? And then the next thing, Kenny, you're saying, hey, do you know this guy, this cranky weatherman / sports reporter in Cedar Falls? It went viral. Over the next couple of days, the guy is on interview shows in London. He's on the morning show, this, that, and the other. Well, he happens to be the guy that lives down the street and a guy that I smoke cigars with in my driveway. So we thought, no,
really?
all true.
This guy right down the street from you?
He lives in Dyke. Dyke is a little town that identifies as Dyke. Yes, the name of the town is Dyke. Fortunately, it's Dike.
Oh my God!
But
do you have a large gay population at all? Do you know? Does anybody?
I can promise you, Dyke does not have a large gay population.
Right.
But before we go to Mark and Dyke, hey, why don't we take a look or a listen to the video, the broadcast that Mark did that went viral?
Mark, how you feeling out there?
Again, the same way I felt about 8 minutes ago when you asked me that same question, right? I normally do sports. Everything is canceled here for the next couple of days. So what better time to ask the sports guy to come in about 5 hours earlier than he would normally wake up, go stand out in the wind and the snow and the cold and tell other people not to do the same. I didn't even realize that there was a 3:30 also in the morning until today. How do I get that Storm Chaser 7 duty? I feel like Clint got the better end of that deal. You know, that thing's heated. The outdoors currently is not heated. Well, I'll tell you what, Ryan, I've got good news and I've got bad news. The good news is that I can still feel my face right now. The bad news is I kind of wish I couldn't.
Ladies and gentlemen, the viral Mark Woodley.
Hello, Mark.
Hey guys, Gary, if you recall, I actually did live down the street from you a few years back, but I had to put a little distance between us at some point.
Look, anybody that watches this show understands putting distance between me and everybody else in this town. It was probably you driving by me throwing rocks when I'd mow the lawn, wasn't it, Mark?
Every once in a while, I do donuts in your lawn. If you ever wondered who, this guy right here.
So, Mark, are you still viral?
It has died down quite a bit. I think it's been about 3 weeks right now. It's not nearly what it was. I think I did 26 interviews in the first 2.5 days. It was just insane. And it hasn't been anything like that since then. But it was the craziest Christmas of my life. I think we're going to remember this one forever.
Absolutely. My question is, do you know how many people have seen this video of you doing this broadcast?
Well, I mean, just from my tweet alone, I know the tweet's been seen about 32 million times. The video
32 million.
The video has got 8 million views.
That's more than the Golden Globes got
by a factor of 10. Yeah. Yeah.
Wow.
Well, no, but Mark, and I know you look, every question's been asked. Every question's been asked. But I know that you just put together a cute video. Nobody can assume this is going to catch fire. You put together a cute video because you just wanted your friends like me to say, hey, Mark, saw you on boy, that must have sucked. When did you realize, holy crap, this is taking off?
Well, yeah, you mentioned that wasn't even supposed to be out there. I put that together and I put it on my personal Facebook page, a couple hundred friends and family. That was supposed to be the end of it. Mostly because I thought if this got out there, maybe I would get in a little bit of trouble with management. But somebody convinced me, like, dude, this is really funny. You got to put this on Twitter. So I reluctantly put it on Twitter, thinking, okay, it's going to get liked by about 20 or 30 people because that's normal for me. And within hours, it just starts blowing up. The Judd Apatow thing was one of the first ones I saw. Rex Chapman retweeted it, and it just went insane. Judd Apatow captioned it legend, which, I think I need to put on my Twitter bio from here on out. But, no, so it went crazy. And the first moment that I realized, okay, this is going to be a really weird day is I got home around noon, and this was about 2 hours after I posted the video. And about an hour later, my phone rings, and I look at the caller ID, and it literally says TMZ, at which point I was like, okay, this is a little bit different. My news director called me, and this is the first time I talked to anybody from management about it. It's like, Mark, the Washington Post wants to talk to you. I'm like, all right. I guess if they're going to let me do this, I'm not in Twitter. I'm not in trouble. I'm not getting fired. I still have a job. I hope I never have to do weather again. But it was wild. It was crazy.
What? I mean, that's encouraging that management kind of, hey, we've got something here. But it's not conventionally what management likes. Is the sports guy goes and does the weather and says this sucks. So it was the popularity of it that saved your life. Otherwise, I'll bet they would have come down on you, right?
Do you think so?
If it hadn't gone viral?
You know what? I've known my general manager for 20 years. I've known my news director for well over 10. He used to be a producer.
So you knew they had a sense of humor.
I knew they had a sense of humor. They knew my sense of humor, that they put me out there in this condition. Maybe something comes out like that. So they understood it. I've been on air here for 20 years. I think the viewers here know my personality, because the only complaints, the only complaints I got, and the only people that said I should get fired, and I got a few of these emails that I should get canned, but they're all from people outside of Eastern Iowa, people who don't know who I am.
Right.
Everybody around here was great with it.
Right.
Well,
Let me ask you.
This question is. Go ahead, Kenny. Go ahead.
Well, I was just going to ask, given 32 million viewers, have you been able to parlay this into anything advantageous? They should give you a talk show, perhaps? Are you getting sponsorships? I mean, now you could. As a matter of fact, what kind of shirt is that you're wearing? Does that have an insignia that perhaps you got sponsored?
Do you think I get free Patagonia stuff out of this?
Just curious. Do you think there's any
for the next few minutes?
Do you think there's any kind of like,
can you commoditize this? Have you?
Yeah, monetize this.
Other people have, I've noticed, but we've got the T-shirts out there. Like there's a company here called Ray Gun that you know very well, Gary. They made T-shirts with some of the quotes from that video, and I'm not making anything off it, but our local Humane Society is benefiting from that.
Oh, that's great.
I've been on a donut. We've got another charitable organization called Cadence Closet that made money off it. The Northeast Food Bank is getting some money from Hy-Vee out of this. So I haven't made anything off it myself. I haven't parlayed it into anything. One of my friends suggested, why don't we pitch something to Netflix, a show called Why Me, where we just put you all in all these horrible situations and you just complain about it. That's the whole show.
Hysterical. That's kind of
I
hysterical.
could be a guest on that. Why me? Why me? But Mark, this is the greedy side of me speaking now, right? Wait,
is there another side?
Yeah, really?
Yeah, it's the greedier side. Because, Pat, coach of the Lakers, Pat
Riley?
Former Riley. He had copy written three-peat. And so anytime anybody put that on a T-shirt or on a coffee mug, he got paid. You could have put "Watch Me Get Crankier" or all of your little funny thing. You could have gone to copyright those, right, and get a little licensing.
I know I should have. I do have the T-shirt that the outdoors currently
is not heated.
Now, is that available on your website?
not mine again. Ray Gun Shirts is making a little money off that, and
No,
the
listen,
Humane Society. So
you're using your celebrity for good. That's terrific. If I was your station manager, and pardon me if he ever hears this, if there was ever another weather problem or really bad conditions, you would be the first person I would send out.
Yeah, me too.
I would say it's horrible out there. Nobody can survive out there. Let's put Mark out.
Let's get to Mark Woodley,
because he'll go viral. Reporter.
See, and there's a couple things about that, though. That's my absolute nightmare because I don't want to do it, number one. And number two, if they put me out there again, people are going to be expecting all this stuff again. And I feel like if I do it a second time, it'll come off forced. I mean, that was me being me.
Yes, but if I were involved in programming, there's no question I would market cranky Mark Woodley just a little bit.
Yeah. Anyhow, you want to segue to real sports since Mark is the sports guy?
Well, I think we've mined that to death. But you know what we've been talking about? Kenny and I have been talking about this. And of course, we saw the heart attack in the Bills game. And, it's often the subject of the violence of sports, particularly the NFL, but even football in general. So we thought, well, here's a sports guy that we've got on. And we're kind of curious what your take is, because, Mark, you see the high schools, you see the college games. It's not quite the same G-force necessarily. But you're seeing young heads in helmets getting battered around. And I just wonder maybe you'd get in trouble being critical of this because it's your job. But what's your take inside the sports industry on how physical it is?
It's very physical. And you talk about the G-force, that hit on Damar Hamlin that stopped his heart. That was a pretty garden variety hit. It wasn't even a hard hit. It just, he got hit in the right spot at the right time in his heart rhythm to do that. And it was the scariest thing I think any of us have ever seen on a football field. And I mean, thank God it was the scariest thing we've ever seen, because if this was happening all the time, it'd be a real problem. But, that kind of hit is so rare that I don't know what I feel about it. Obviously we got to understand why it happened, what we can do to prevent it from happening in the future. But again, this is like the first time.
It's the first time in the history of football that anything like this has ever taken place.
I mean, we've seen spinal injuries that have paralyzed players for life, and those are all awful.
And you can make adjustments for those. You can make rules to help guard against that, and not going, leading with the helmet and those kind of things.
We'd never seen this, but I remember watching the Redskins play about 40 years ago, and I watched Joe Theismann's leg get snapped like a twig. I mean, we've seen horrible things happen that never seem to have happened until they happen.
Right.
And we do know that these athletes are getting bigger, stronger, and faster. The G-forces are increasing. And with CTE awareness, we have better helmets. But it seems to me, in a sport that gets more and more violent, that we're going to keep seeing new things like this that seem like an anomaly, but is it really?
Right. Well, this one I would say definitely is an anomaly. But yeah, you're talking about the spinal injuries that happen, and they try and make rules about this. And really all they can do, I think, at this point is try and make the game safer. I know we've been saying that for years, and it's going to always be violent. But better than anybody that money rules the world. You know how much money the National Football League makes. So that the NFL, the sport of football, is never going away. So you've got to find a way to make it safer. That's really all you can do.
I'm just going to make this observation, and there's no answer to it, totally rhetorical, which is, it did occur to me that, thank God everything worked out well with this young man. But what would you have done if you were in the NFL office and he had actually died? Would you have to turn off, not only cancel the game, but the entire season? There really is no answer to that. It's just like, I thought of that alternative. It was like, holy shit, what would you have done?
If he had died or remained in serious critical condition without showing signs of improvement, what would the NFL? I don't know. My guess is that they'd figure out a way to go on, because
I don't see how you could go on.
A lot of money.
Don't. If he died, and to see the greatest damage to me of this whole thing, not the greater damage, but it's been going on for years, is the fact, and if Mark, you cover high school, I don't know a single parent, honestly, whose kids are taking sports in school right now that they're allowing them to play football.
You can speak to that, Mark. Are the numbers diminishing?
The numbers seem to be down a little bit, and you do hear these concerns from parents more often. Now, I've got kids, none of them play football, so I've never had to make this decision, but I know parents, there are a few that have pulled their kids out, and most of them that I know are letting their kids make their own decisions, but it's a really tough call.
Well, even Drew Brees said he would not let his son play until he was 14 when
My
his
daughter,
neck
my daughter,
was more
my
fused
daughter.
to his head. I mean, it's a biological, thing.
I have a grandson.
My
My daughter, and my son-in-law. We have a 4-year-old, and I'm not included, but he's my grandson, the 4-year-old, and he's very athletic, incredibly athletic, which I'm sure everybody says, but he really is. But we've already made the decision.
The golfer?
Yeah,
this little golfer?
They are not going to allow him to play football. And one of the reasons is not because of just all this stuff going on, but because my son-in-law's brother, Matt, was very athletic. He played football at Princeton and was an amazing player. But he got messed up. And he's an ex-college football player who would not let his children play football.
But it was Princeton. I mean,
yeah, that's true. I get you. I get you.
Well,
but I mean, that's the kind of thing. I'm just saying it's so negative. Parents don't want their kids to play the game.
I read that soccer is increasing, at least in some communities. I don't see it here, really. But more and more parents are saying you can play soccer, but not football. And it is diminishing the farm team that goes into high school and college and then the pros. Well, we'll see what happens. And we don't have to keep talking about this, but I do want to make one more comment. I have a friend that's always accusing me of being immoral because I choose football. I love football. And he compares it to baseball where, you can get hit by a fastball in the head, which is dangerous, but the incidences are far fewer, that it's a much more civilized sport. And he has said, how can you take a moral position to support football? But I still love football, and I'm still going to watch the Super Bowl, even without the Packers. But to me, it's not a moral question because we do know the risks. And these guys, particularly in football, men, choose to play football. They're sort of modern gladiators. And if they're willing to fight the lions, I'm sort of willing to watch. I mean, what's your thought?
Feel the same way about boxing?
I'm not a fan of boxing. That to me is too brutal. But I don't think it's a moral position. I have friends that love boxing, but I don't think they're immoral. I
think it's horrible that I think Kentucky Fried Chicken is the worst thing could kill you. But to be honest with you, I like it.
I mean, Mark, what are your moral thoughts there, Mark?
Right. Well, you know what? You're right. The players go out there, they know the risks. And I think every football player goes out on the field, whether it be in the NFL, college, or high school, knows, I might get hurt today. I might break a leg. I might sprain my ankle. But this is so very
You don't
different.
expect to die.
Yeah. No player's going out there thinking, I might die tonight. And Damar Hamlin was within seconds of dying. I mean, if that trainer doesn't get out there and start CPR immediately, Damar Hamlin's not here anymore. And no NFL player is going out there thinking, I may die tonight. So I think even for NFL players, a lot of them saw that a couple of weeks ago, and they're thinking, all right, this is maybe a little more serious of a game than I thought it was.
But I do want to ask this, because you do cover local sports, high school, and how far does it you don't cover like junior high or that kind of sports? Do they have no, just high school stuff, right?
Just high school. We high school varsity. We don't do the high school junior varsity stuff either. So yeah. I mean, because if a young kid has a great story, we've got, say, a hockey player who's going to play in some international youth tournament, we'll do a feature story on that. But as far as covering games and highlights, that starts the varsity level and on up.
Right. Because I watched the other day the high school football championships. Did you see this on TV? National. I was like, wow, they're doing high school now. So I'm thinking, is high school football going to start to get where, fill in the void that people don't get enough football from college football, and now they're going to start watching
for a while,
high school level? Really?
Oh yeah, this has been going on for a few years. You don't see any of the teams from Iowa taking part in any of these national games. It's usually the big prep academies, that have like 20 guys going to play Division.
No, but we get football. The state championships here at UNI. We have a great dome stadium here, and we get the Iowa high school championship. And I go.
Are they starting just like they did in NBA, where they started to go into high schools to recruit basketball players? Are they do the same thing with football?
As of right now, the NFL has the rule where I think you have to be in your third year of college to even be considered. So they can't take players out of high school right now. And
Not take, scout.
okay. Oh, I'm sure they scout.
What is the thing that in 2023, if you were going to look at sports and what the big events or that kind of thing would be, what would be your predictions for 2023 in the sporting world?
My predictions for 2023, yeah, it's tough to call. I mean, I cover a lot of college sports, and just making a prediction about anything in college sports is so tough with, everybody knows about the transfer portal. You never know who's even going to be on teams at this point. So making any prediction about, so that's the big story about 2023, especially in college sports, is just uncertainty. No, I don't think anybody knows what to talk about at this point.
Did you predict the Georgia score?
Okay.
Did you see?
No, I didn't see.
I did predict that
happening in the national championship.
Yeah, I said long ago on Facebook, let's just give Georgia the championship so nobody gets humiliated. But then Ohio State actually played a game where they
Ohio State should have beat
won. But still, we didn't expect this score. But still, Georgia.
Now, haven't the rules changed? The college athletes can now profit, make money.
Correct. Yeah, they can't be paid by the schools, but yes, they are allowed to make money off their name, image, and likeness. And some of the schools, although they say they're separate entities because the school can't have any control over them, have organizations now that help, find nonprofits that players can work for, and then they pay them for that, for using their name, image, and likeness. So yeah, that's changed the sport as well. The rich are probably going to get richer at this point. So Georgia,
do we know who the
Alabama,
highest paid who the highest paid sports athlete is through sponsorships?
In college?
Yeah.
I don't know, but there are several who are talking about seven figures, well over $1 million playing college sports right now.
Wow.
Is this good? Where does this go?
It goes to high
Because
school.
then it's going to become competitive, like pro, and somebody that's not getting the endorsements in high school or or college rather is going to regret, or it's going to manipulate the school they choose for it. They're not going to go to small markets if they're a blue chip. I mean, it's going to change the dynamic, isn't it?
Yeah, I don't know if it's good or bad, but I do know the fact that, these colleges and universities have made billions off these athletes for years. And some people say, sure, these athletes are getting scholarships. And first of all, not all of them are.
No.
For one thing. So that's
what I would say.
And for the amount of money they're making for these schools, that scholarship is a pretty low bar.
I love sports. I love football. I watch it all. Everybody knows that. However, if you're generating that kind of money for your school, let's put it back into academics. Let's bring down the cost of tuition. There's a lot of better ways than paying a coach $6 million a year to perhaps improve education and the affordability of school. Now, I'm on to a whole new subject, but that seems pretty obvious to me that we could appropriate these funds a little better.
And you obviously want to beat the drum for that for a while, but in my opinion, and I'm sure you probably feel the same way, I just feel like that's something that, although that's the ideal, it's never going to happen.
Oh, I'm used to my ideals going nowhere.
So now with football coming to the end, the next sport that you'll cover is going to be what? That you're going to put your eyes on?
We're already covering basketball.
Sure, we're in basketball, and this is the state of Iowa, so wrestling is huge. The state the high school state finals for the state of Iowa, they're probably sold out already right now, but they do it at the Wells Fargo Arena in Des Moines, holds 16,000, and they sell out for the high finals of high school wrestling. It's just an insane event.
Wow.
Well, our regents colleges here, our regent universities do very well in basketball, and we're pretty excited about what they.
But there's no
professional.
Is there a professional basketball team in Iowa?
No professional sports really in Iowa.
Ask that again. No, we have no professional. Our regent schools are professional.
Right.
Schools.
I'm just saying. So for the most of the country, like in California, basketball, we're going to move into the basketball season. Then we're going to move into March Madness. Now, I assume Iowa will be in March Madness. Yeah.
Well, Iowa State is the one team that looks like they're definitely going to be in. They're 4-0 in the Big 12 right now. And Iowa State's a fantastic story. Their head coach, TJ Otzelberger's in his second year. When he took over They went 2-22 the previous year.
Wow.
The first season, they made the Sweet 16.
Okay, so after basketball comes baseball. Now, what's the situation in Iowa with baseball?
Well, Iowa's one of the rare states that doesn't play spring baseball. So spring in Iowa, at least for high school, that's soccer, that's track and field, a couple of those events. We play summer baseball here, which is a little insane because it gets really hot in the summer. You know, that corn
and
grows,
you cover
the
that.
humidity goes up. It's 110 degrees with a heat index, and we're out playing baseball.
And you, the Waterloo Bucks, right?
Sure.
Our Waterloo team.
Waterloo the Bucks are our off-season college team, yes.
Our off-season college team. Is that sort of your downtime? I mean, is there a Woodley season where you relax a little bit and sit in my driveway and smoke cigars? I mean, summer's maybe a little softer.
You should invite him in the house, Gary.
I know he never lets me in the house.
He throws rocks at me when I mow the lawn.
I just get the driveway invite.
Yeah, that's what it sounds like.
No, I don't. That's as far as he can go. But I mean, is that when you relax a little bit? Is there a little vacation for the Woodman?
I would say the one relaxing time comes in August when high school baseball ends and we've got 1 month until college football starts. Other than that, no, it's pretty go for 11 months out of the year. And, you know, we talk about high school baseball in the state of Iowa. We've got two coaches, you know, Gene Schultz, who passed away a few years ago, and Dennis Olensdak, Gene from Key High and Dennis from Decorah. They are the two national leaders all time in wins. And I think a lot of it has to do with the fact that we play summer baseball. You can play 60 games in a year. You can't do that in the spring while you're still going to school.
I think it's important to point out, and Kenny, you don't know this probably. I know Mark because we worked together 15
Were you
years
the
ago.
weatherman?
No.
Oh.
I was creative director at Mud Advertising, and Mark was a copywriter. He was a young pup, you know, energetic, clever guy, funny.
Oh, but was and that'll change, is what you're saying, Gary.
Well, but we always knew, I always knew that Mark wasn't going to continue with this. Your eye was sort of out the door. You were always fascinated with sports. It seemed like your destiny, correct?
Yeah, the job was just a little too normal for me, Gary. I'm not that normal of a guy.
You don't need to sell me on that. I was very aware of that. But when you went off to do sports, I knew that you'd found your element. So my question is,
sure,
if your managers are watching, is this it for Mark Woodley? Waterloo, bigger market, national? Do you even think about that?
You know, you never shut the door on anything, but you, as you've mentioned, I used to work with you, which means I've been here for a while.
You shut that door.
Yeah, so that door may be shut. But I've been around here 20 years. My kids go to school here. It's home. I grew up here. So, you know what? I'll never shut the door. If the right opportunity comes along, sure, maybe we take a leap at it. But for right now, I'm not looking.
You do love it, though, don't you? You really love what you do.
That's why I'm still here.
Do you get to travel to these games as well, out of state?
Oh, absolutely. Especially during March Madness, we'll follow all our teams. I just finished up following the Iowa football team to the Music City Bowl in Kentucky, in Nashville.
So that sounds like, I mean, that must be fun to go out of town, follow teams, and go to these events and visit all these stadiums. That must be really fun.
Oh, it's a great time. It's a ton of work, and this time it was a lot harder because I had to take a whole bunch of pictures with people while still trying to do my job, which it was super fun, but it was hard to find time to actually get things done. But it was great. It was great.
Unfortunately, Mark, I went to the bathroom during the entire second quarter of that bowl game with Iowa and Kentucky, so I missed every piece of scoring.
You missed the entire game by missing that second quarter.
The entire game.
What about professional venues? As far as I know, Iowa doesn't have a football team, but as far as going to like the Super Bowl, I guess is where I'm leading. Will they send you to the Super Bowl?
I won't go to Super Bowl. No. When I used to work up in Mason City, Iowa, we covered the Minnesota Vikings. So I was up in the Metrodome quite a bit, which doesn't exist anymore. I haven't even been to US Bank Stadium. It's 3.5 hours away. That's got to be a bucket list thing, right?
Well, you should come out and visit SoFi.
Love to. It looks incredible.
Yeah.
Who do you follow in professional football? You brought up the Minnesota Vikings.
Not the Minnesota Vikings. Not your team.
Who do you follow?
The
Not
team
the
that your
Packers.
team beats every single year.
The most ignored team, the Detroit Lions,
That would be the Chicago Bears, Gary.
the Chicago Bears.
How do you not
of
know
course,
this?
Yes. Well,
I don't like.
of
See, this is
course.
why I don't like talking football with you. We never beat the Packers
No, the Packers can suck and they beat the Bears twice
every
a year.
year. Every year, we could be
Yeah.
a playoff team. You'd be out of the playoffs. You still beat us by 40.
All right, Mark, can I put you on the spot and say what two teams are going to meet in the Super Bowl?
Yeah, I was going to ask the same question.
I'm definitely going homerish on who is going to be in the Super Bowl. I mean, I feel like I love the story with the Buffalo Bills right now. I feel like that they're playing for DeMar and Brock Purdy and the San Francisco 49ers. What a story Brock Purdy has been. I got to cover this guy.
That's one of our boys. That's one of ours from Iowa State.
I got to tell you, these names of these football players, I mean, they're born to be.
They're
You name
born,
your kid
yeah,
Brock
Purdy.
You
What
got a
choice
really
do you
good
have but to
chance.
be a quarterback?
Look at the
kid. I am rooting for
well,
Brock Purdy.
What's the name of the guy who just won the over in the championship? Oh, Stetson. His
Stetson
first name
Bennett.
is Stetson.
It's an
I mean,
incredible
these are
name,
really
isn't
cool
it?
names.
How are you named Tom Brady?
Yeah,
And
Tom
then
Brady.
you're 6'6"
Joe
and perfect
Montana.
looking. Yeah,
Joe Montana.
Exactly. Dick Butkus, for that matter.
Yeah.
But I am rooting for Brock Purdy. However, my prediction mark are the Eagles and the Chiefs.
That's fair. That's a good call. But let's go back to Brock Purdy though, because I mean, this guy was Mr. Irrelevant.
Yeah.
He was the last pick in the NFL draft. No
Right.
Mr. Irrelevant before this year had even thrown a touchdown in the NFL. And look, he's got 5 wins. He's thrown multiple touchdowns every game he's played in.
Every game.
He's just rolling. It's
And
insane.
very few
But that story is not unique. That's what I find interesting.
Mhm.
Tom Brady wasn't picked first.
No.
As a matter of fact, if you look at the top pick quarterbacks, most of those guys didn't do well in the NFL.
Aaron Rodgers, for
it was
example.
the people that nobody noticed. That's
Well, and
what I
you've
find
got to bring up
interesting.
here Kurt Warner. Kurt Warner played his college
Exactly.
football 8
Yeah,
miles away from here.
True,
Wasn't
but
drafted.
none of them were actually picked last. I mean, Brock Purdy
Not
is
last.
perhaps undersized.
Well, Kurt Warner wasn't
totally
picked at all.
overlooked. Third string, didn't figure he would do anything but practice squad, basically, right? But I used to go to Iowa State games with my son because we love football, and we knew that Brock Purdy had game smarts. You knew he did. He made things happen when plays went south. The kid knows where to put the ball.
Yeah,
so
but his
we kind of
parents
aren't
knew
surprised.
they were going to name him Brock because they knew he was going to be a quarterback in the
His
NFL.
name is Purdy. Yeah, I get it.
But I think that's a great. I never would have thought of Brock for a name. Would you?
Well,
Would you? Do you have kids, Mark?
I have 3. None of them are named Brock.
I'm going to call my kid Brock from now on.
Yeah, I like that.
Brock Kroger. Brock Kroger sounds terrible.
Yeah.
But we knew that he had something. I'm not that surprised by what he's able to do running that offense. He's smart. He's quick. He's on his feet. He can improvise. He knows where to put the ball. He has a lot of game intelligence.
Do you think the offensive line has like a thing? They go, let's block for Brock. Let's block.
That's why they don't, because they made the
For
same
Brock.
mistake. Let's
Oh, no.
block for Brock.
Block for Brock.
For Brock.
They should have the T-shirt. You should mention that to them.
But I think we've digressed.
We have.
Hey, Mark, you got to go back to work sometime today, right? Because there's actually sports to do.
What's
There's
the big
sports to
story?
do.
What's the big story? Breaking
The big
news.
story is
We'll
that
let
I
you go,
actually
but tell
don't
us
have
what
to
you're
go to
gonna go
work
do
today. I'm probably going to sleep once I hang up here.
You mean there's no sports go? Well, it is Wednesday. I mean, there's nothing really going. Yeah, there's nobody plays anything on Wednesday, do they?
Yeah, especially on high school. There's never anything high school.
What about
Wednesday.
golf? What about that as a sport? I mean, you have golf.
Well, we don't have
courses.
winter golf here, Kenny.
No, I know that, but does the tour ultimately make its way there?
Quad
Well,
Cities
we have
is
the
the closest.
Waterloo Open, which is fun.
We have that one as well. That's right.
All right. Is
That's-
there any high
Is
school
that called
golf?
semi-pro?
College golf?
They exist, if that's what
Aha.
you're asking.
Okay.
We have some nice golf courses.
All right, so
Kenny.
here we found your weakness. You're
Yeah.
not a golf
Well,
state,
You
right?
you
Are
have
you?
found.
You don't have.
I wouldn't
But
call us
let
a
me ask
golf
this question:
state.
you don't have a baseball team. You don't have a football team. You don't have. You're not sound like you're into golf. So really,
Yeah, what's your
why
point?
would I move to Iowa?
Well,
Gary?
well, I could turn that camera around and you'd see all the snow because it gets up to 40 degrees in January.
It's
You know
interesting
why?
to me.
Historically, you'd moved to Iowa. Historically, we've had an excellent secondary education.
No,
We have excellent regent schools.
I know that, but
We
why
have
are no
seasons.
professional sports teams there?
Well, because you know what? We get things called television, and I watch the Green Bay Packers. I watch the Chicago Bears. We travel to places, and we love our high school and college sports. Right,
No.
Mark?
Why is there no?
Absolutely. Our college sports teams are our
You should
professional
be
teams
able
here.
to have at least a professional baseball team.
You have to have a metropolitan area bigger than 350,000 people. I mean, Green Bay.
I was about to
notwithstanding,
say,
of course.
hell, have you heard of Green Bay? Yeah.
Well, there's
But you know,
Green Bay.
you're right. We don't have the metropolitan areas yet. You know, you look at the University of Iowa drawing 70,000 fans every Saturday. You look at Iowa State drawing 60,000 every Saturday. Even without the big metropolitan areas, we're still filling large stadiums. Those are our professional sports.
That's
They
right.
are.
You see, so you do, yeah. If you had a professional team, I believe it could support, given what he just said, 700,000 people showing up.
I don't know, because here I'm going to answer your question seriously. I always thought it was my advantage in Iowa for the professional reason, because you go anywhere, you go to any bar, and it's almost equal parts Bears, Chiefs, St. Louis, Green Bay, Minnesota. You can kind of pick your Midwestern team.
Oh,
You know,
I see what you're saying. Yeah, okay.
We have
Because you don't
choices.
have an identity of your own. Everybody adapts. They stick with something. They have their own identity.
Right.
Isn't that sad that you don't have an identity in your own?
Mark Woodley loves the Bears. You know, you kind of choose here. And
Yeah.
we're just as enthusiastic about
It
our
is fun. We
teams.
have rivalries all over the place, and it's great for football, but it's a real problem for baseball because of baseball's archaic blackout rules. We are blacked out of 6 different baseball markets in the state of Iowa.
Yeah.
It's insane.
Why?
It's just broadcast rights, you know. So if you got the MLB package, you're blacked out of the Minnesota Twins, the Milwaukee Brewers, the St. Louis Cardinals, both teams in Chicago, Kansas City. That's 7.
Think about. I mean, nothing is more valuable in broadcasting. Nothing than sports. Did you see that? YouTube. But I have DirecTV. The only reason I've had DirecTV is because of Sunday Ticket.
Right.
To pay, for.
Right.
They're losing Sunday Ticket next year. It's going to YouTube.
Go on to YouTube. That's right.
Which means I'm probably going to drop my DirecTV. I mean, it's really changing the landscape of everything. So now you have Sunday Ticket going to YouTube, streaming service, Amazon doing Thursday Night Football, streaming service. I really think you're not going to have any broadcast TV. Everything is going to be owned by a streaming service, because the one thing that people, they know they're going to get an audience for, and a real-time audience for, is these kind of sporting events.
I think you're right. My problem is this: everything, streaming television, iPhones, smartphones, everything that is a new advantage, right, is predicated on the idea that it works perfectly, and it doesn't. I'm watching the Packers the other night, and it freezes, and it goes back, and I have to reset my password and everything. I'm not going anywhere with this except I'm rambling, but whereas I could watch a television show, now there are all of these unforeseen things that can get in the way. It can get too cold.
Well, they're unforeseen
and the
to you.
freezes
They're
or whatever.
unforeseen to you because you're an old, grumpy old man like me. But they're not unforeseen to a 14-year-old kid who just they know that's normal to them. That's the only way they know how to deal with stuff.
My TV dumps out all the time for reasons I don't even understand, and I have to re-put in the password and stuff like that because now Disney
Gary,
is part
call
of
your children.
Hulu
Gary, call your children, and they'll talk you through it. Okay,
I know, that's what
they'll
You'll
probably
be all right.
suggest a reboot.
My kids don't understand what it's like. I have to get up early on Saturday morning from 7 a.m. to 10 a.m. to be able to watch cartoons. They just pop it on at any time anymore.
Yeah.
And you talk about the sports all moving to streaming. Well, Iowa State, they're the number 14 team in the country right now in men's basketball. They play at Kansas. Kansas is a blue blood, big time name, the number 2 team in the country. That game's on ESPN Plus. There is no actual television broadcast of that game. It's all streaming.
Yeah.
Right. Hey, we're not going to take any more of your time. I think we've used almost an hour of you, Mark.
Thank you, Mark.
I kind of said, hey, Mark, we'll talk to you for 20 minutes and you can go back to bed or go do some sports or stuff like that. But I have found this to be a fascinating conversation.
Oh,
hey, is there any
Gary.
way that you be going viral is contagious?
I will do what I can, but I don't think I have that clout yet, but I'm working on it.
All right, because hopefully by us, you being viral and by association, we'll go viral.
Perfect.
Well, that's why I was trying to make you mad.
Thank you, buddy.
I was trying to make you uncomfortable and mad because then you'd put something together and you'd tweet it, and then maybe Kenny and I would go viral.
Hey, Gary, we don't work together anymore. You can't make me mad anymore.
All right. Well, you know what? You do something about this, and I'll invite you into the house next time.
Oh, I appreciate it. I've always wondered what lies beyond the driveway.
Well, no. Mark came over, total surprise last summer. We had a beautiful cigar, and did we not have a single malt scotch together?
Oh, we did. It was a great moment. I will cherish it.
It was
forever.
very, very nice. It was very, very nice. Well, I'd like that to happen more often.
All right. Thanks, Gary.
Mark, as far as I'm concerned, if you're smoking a cigar, you have to stay in the driveway.
That's fine.
I won't let you in the house.
I mean,
my wife would.
I eventually finished it. I'm not still smoking it. I could have gone in after.
Oh, I see.
Well, you know, I did try to monetize you. I actually found a cigar butt in my driveway, and I put it on Facebook saying, "This is Mark Woodley's cigar butt." And I tried to get some offers. I even thought of putting it on eBay.
Yeah, it's amazing the number of people who have been.
But I couldn't actually certify it.
It's amazing the number of people who've just been going through my trash the last couple of weeks too. I've had to chase them all away.
Yeah. Wow.
All
right, Mark. Thanks so much, buddy.
Thanks, Kenny. Thanks,
Gary. Well, that was fun. Mark is a very bright guy. He's very funny and he's very bright.
Well, I'd be curious to see whether or not he gets any opportunities to move to, another market, a bigger market, or whether or not he'd be even interested in going. I mean, it's kind of nice to be able just to, do a nice community thing where you know the people and everything like that. And,
You're telling my story as well. I was in Los Angeles and New York and Chicago. I kind of like being kind of a big fish in a much smaller pond.
Yeah, no, I can understand that. I can understand
and Mark, he seems to get the same kind of thrill. He's a big deal around here. He goes to the grocery store and people point.
Mm-hmm. But it is
they point at me for different reasons. They point at me for my politics, Kenny.
Yeah. Well, what do we know? Well, I don't want to bring up his politics. That's his own business. But nevertheless, anyhow, so what's the forecast for Iowa?
Do you mean literally the weather forecast?
Yeah, just
cold,
out of curiosity.
Cold and snowy for several weeks, if not months.
What happens? I mean, the one thing that I really kind of enjoy about warm weather is when I was a kid growing up back east, getting out of the shower into a cold bathroom when it's 0 degrees, be like, ugh. Yeah. And I'm just curious, do you have like a nice heater or heated towels or anything that when you...
Well, there's a couple of ways to look at this. No, first of all, I turn on the bathroom overhead heater several minutes before I go in there, and I close the door so that it is sort of sauna-like.
Okay.
However, when I do forget to do that and I go out into my room and it maybe is 65 degrees as opposed to the 95-degree shower, you feel the pores just collapsing on themselves, but it's sort of invigorating, Kenny. It's sort of invigorating.
Well, I mean, maybe I just remember as a kid growing up, or when that I would have to take a bath or a shower and it'd be freezing outside, and it was so cold getting in and out of that. And so I think that's one of those stupid things that I think of when I get out of the shower. Now I go, thank God.
Every time you get in and out of the shower,
that's
you think of how
strange.
Lucky you are?
There's a lot of things that I think of all the time. The other thing that I think of all the time is every time the summer is about to end and they start all the back to school commercials for going back to school. To this day, and I haven't been in school in 50 years, I still go, I am so happy I don't have to go back to school.
You still relive
every day. Okay. When those commercials would start at the end of the summer, and they would start with "It's time for back to school," and they show happy kids buying loose leaves
thank God
and notebooks.
But let me ask you a question, and this is a psychological question that I think is somewhat universal.
Mhm.
I still have dreams that I'm in high school. I have dreams that I didn't fulfill all the requirements, and I'm at my age, 65, and I still have to finish something before I get my high school diploma. Do you ever have,
Yeah.
or of course, I forget my pants.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. I mean, I have all of those that I have to take a test. I didn't study for. I didn't know about it.
That I didn't study for. Right.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I you still have those. I mean, it's not my joke, but somebody, and I forget who it was, and I agree with it. And it's so my life, which was my life was terrific up until I heard the word homework.
It's true.
It is true. I was going through school,
true.
everything. I love this place. And then one day the
Although
teacher said, well, here's homework. And I was like, excuse me? Homework?
Although
Aren't we done here?
this might only be interesting to us as people are turning away right now to other podcasts. However, I have an older brother, 2 years older, and I remember being 4 and he was 6 and he was in first grade and he would come home with first grade homework, which was probably basic addition, but I was jealous. I couldn't wait until I had the maturity that it was more than just finger paints and sharing time.
You were excited by the prospect of homework?
I remember I was excited by the prospect of getting older and being like my brother. And I still carry that, actually. You know, I have friends that are older than him that I don't consider, older at all. But those 2 years, my brother is still to me at 67. A grandfather figure. Yeah, I was jealous.
You know, ultimately, it really comes down to I'm lazy. As a matter of fact, I went to the dentist 2 days ago to get a cleaning.
Okay.
Always interesting at the dentist thing because you're having conversation while they have their hands in your mouth. But nevertheless, she asked me, "What's your New Year's resolution?"
Were her hands in your mouth when she was asking? Was she expecting?
Yeah, but she was able to talk. I could hear her. My hands were not in her mouth, so I could hear the question. Right. And I answer, I don't have a New Year's resolution. I never have a New Year's resolution. And the reason they never have a New Year's resolution is because I'm just too lazy to have one. I don't want to have to come up with one and then have to think about doing it. It's just, and it's not out of any other reason other than I'm sure there's a lot of self-improvement. It's just that, why do I have to do this on myself also? I don't bother with it. It doesn't interest me.
And no one follows. I don't do them anymore because I say I don't want to give myself the disappointment that I always experienced by February, where I already gave up. However, I do still, and we sort of touched on this with the new year. The last year was always shit, right? But now the new year. Every year, this year particularly, because you mentioned the other day, Kroger, every time you've started the last 6 shows, you've talked about how sick you are. And I'm kind of tired of that. So this year, I am resolved that by summer, I am back to full capacity as I was 10 years ago. That's going to be diet. That's going to be, and this is something I can do. I got to get my knee into shape. I'm tired of complaining about hernias. I am going to get into shape.
Well, what are we going to do as far as subject matter?
I don't know. We're going to talk about what I'm lifting, my deadlift.
Okay, well, I think we should do a podcast called No Podcast for Old Men.
There you go.
Because, I mean, maybe that is our niche. It's just like people our age who are just, we're deconstructing.
Well, we're certainly hoping that's our niche.
Yeah.
We're certainly hoping that people find our banter as amusing as we do. We're just about out of time, Kenny. And I know we touched on politics a little bit. We haven't gotten into much. You had mentioned in an email, should we talk about Joe Biden's documents? I mean, we can touch on that if you want to get.
You know what? It's a whole thing. I'm just going to put this into people's minds. If you were on the other side, you would be able to come up with a conspiracy theory. And my conspiracy theory, now that these papers are popping up everywhere that Biden once walked into, I think they were all planted. I think since Trump had all of these secret documents in Mar-a-Lago, he had plenty of them to get rid of. And he probably said, hey, take some of these and put them around where Biden was. And then they'll find them.
I'm not going to say whether I agree with that or not, but I think for the sake of this podcast, let's just get that out there. Let's start let's see if this goes viral.
Exactly.
Ken Seisler's theory that Biden's documents were planted by Trumpies.
It's a conspiracy, I tell you.
all
It's
for
a conspiracy.
I
All right, I think it's time to say goodnight, and until next time.
Yes, I think it's time to say goodbye. So thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed the Gary and Kenny Show. Find us on YouTube. We have our own channel. We love getting a thumbs up from you. We're on all the popular podcast platforms and also on DBNA streaming television. So until next time, when I brag about my health, Kenny?
Farewell.
Farewell. Very well said. So long, everyone.